For decades, martial arts cinema has given us unforgettable villains, men capable of terrifying heroes, commanding armies, and turning every fight into a nightmare. But behind these villains stand elite martial artists whose real-world skills make every punch, kick, and strike feel genuinely dangerous. These are the most lethal Asian villains in history. Number 5. Chong Li. There have been many villains in martial arts cinema, but very few manage to command as much respect, presence, and constant danger as Chong Li. In Bloodsport, Chong Li was not just another competitor in the kumite. He was the very definition of danger, a fighter so dominant that most of his opponents looked defeated before the match had even begun. His reputation was so terrifying that simply hearing his name was enough for competitors to realize they were in serious trouble. What made him even more frightening was his brutality. Chong Li did not fight to score points or entertain the crowd. He fought to destroy his opponents. His punches seemed capable of breaking bones, his kicks carried devastating power, and nearly every fight ended with someone lying motionless on the ground. Much of that sense of danger came from the man portraying him, Yeung, better known as Bolo Yeung. Before becoming a martial arts movie legend, he was a bodybuilding champion who spent years training in kung fu and other traditional Chinese fighting arts. His size, strength, and intimidating presence made even the heroes look vulnerable whenever they shared the screen with him. But what truly turned Chong Li into an immortal character was the fact that he seemed unbeatable. For most of the film, nobody could stop him. Not the best fighters in the tournament, not the most experienced champions. Every victory added to his legend and made the final confrontation feel impossible to win. And when the moment finally came for him to face Frank Dux, the fight lived up to every bit of the hype. Chong Li entered the arena, determined to impose his dominance from the very first second. Every attack carried the feeling that Frank was facing something far more dangerous than an ordinary tournament champion. Chong Li was not just powerful, he fought with an intimidating level of intensity. That constant sense of danger is exactly what made the fight so memorable. This was not the typical battle where the hero controlled the action. It was a struggle in which Frank Dux had to push himself to the limit just to survive and find a way to defeat a man who seemed invincible. Decades later, thousands of villains have tried to replicate the formula, but very few have come close to matching its impact. Because Chong Li was not simply Frank's enemy. He was the nightmare of the entire kumite. And while millions of fans remember him for Bloodsport, Bolo Yeung also portrayed other unforgettable villains, alongside Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon, and alongside Jean-Claude Van Damme in Double Impact, cementing his legacy as one of the most iconic antagonists in the history of martial arts cinema. Number 4. General Fujita. In Fist of Legend, few characters radiated as much danger as General Fujita. Unlike other villains who rely on soldiers or subordinates, Fujita was a warrior capable of doing the job himself. Cold, brutal, and completely ruthless, he represented military power taken to its absolute extreme. What made the character so convincing was that Billy Chow was not simply an actor. Before entering the film industry, he built an impressive career as a professional kickboxing champion, accumulating dozens of victories while facing some of the most dangerous fighters in Asia. He held the super welterweight title from 1984 to 1986, and retired with a terrifying professional record of 45 wins, 0 losses, and 8 draws, including 32 victories by knockout. Simply incredible. His physical power was evident in every scene. The punches looked real, the kicks carried weight, and his movements reflected the confidence of someone who had spent years fighting for real. At times, Fujita felt less like a fictional character and more like an authentic fighter trapped inside a movie. That is why his showdown with Chen Zhen, played by Jet Li, remains one of the most unforgettable moments in Fist of Legend. It was not just a battle between good and evil, but a collision between two martial arts masters whose talent made every strike, every movement, and every second of the fight feel authentic. What made that fight so special was the experience both men brought to the screen. While Jet Li combined speed, precision, and flawless technique, his opponent brought imposing physical presence and an intensity that elevated every exchange. The result was a fight sequence that continues to be admired decades after its release. And although General Fujita remains one of his most memorable roles, Billy Chow also portrayed legendary villains alongside Jackie Chan, Jet Li, and Donnie Yen, becoming one of the most feared antagonists in Hong Kong martial arts cinema. Number 3. Hua Xing-ku. Jet Li portrayed one of the most dangerous villains Hollywood had seen in years. While other villains relied on brute force, Hua Xing-ku combined technique, speed, and a level of ferocity that made him a constant threat. In Lethal Weapon 4, he was the ultimate enforcer of the triads. Cold, silent, and completely ruthless, he seemed like a machine designed for a single mission: to destroy anyone who stood in his way. What made him even more terrifying was that he never needed to shout, threaten, or boast about his abilities. His presence spoke for itself. Every time he appeared on screen, it felt like someone was about to die or suffer a serious beating. And much of that credibility came from Jet Li himself. Before arriving in Hollywood, he was a 5-time national wushu champion in China, mastering forms, traditional weapons, and combat at a level very few people have ever achieved. His speed, precision, and physical control were so extraordinary that many viewers believed some of his movements had been sped up by the camera. Every time he stepped into action, the difference between him and the other opponents was obvious. His movements were faster, sharper, and more lethal, executed with the confidence of someone who knew exactly how to dominate a fight and overwhelm his enemies. His final showdown against Martin and Roger elevated the tension of the movie to another level. What appeared to be a simple fight transformed into a desperate battle where every strike carried consequences. Even while facing 2 seasoned veterans, Hua Xing-ku never stopped looking dangerous, forcing them to fight at the absolute limit of their abilities just to defeat him. In fact, the gap in speed and martial arts skill was so great that, at times, it felt like Mel Gibson and Danny Glover were only staying alive thanks to the power of the script. Many fans consider Hua Xing-ku the greatest villain in the entire Lethal Weapon franchise, and also one of the most lethal antagonists Jet Li ever portrayed throughout his career. It is fair to say that the character was a perfect introduction to Hollywood, but the next villain is famous for pushing Donnie Yen to his absolute limit. Number 2. Tony. If there is one villain capable of pushing Donnie Yen to his absolute limit, it is Tony. In Flashpoint, his character was a violent criminal who could solve any problem with his own hands. Every time he appeared on screen, he projected a constant sense of danger. It did not matter how many police officers were present or how many weapons surrounded him. He always looked like the kind of man who could turn any situation into a fight to the death. What made the character so convincing was the man behind it, Collin, one of the most underrated martial artists in Asian cinema. Throughout his career, he shared the screen with legends such as Jet Li, Donnie Yen, and Keanu Reeves, building a reputation as one of Hong Kong's most intimidating villains. His combination of power, speed, and aggression made every strike feel real, relying on a direct, brutal fighting style designed to destroy whoever stood in front of him. And when he finally faced Donnie Yen, the result was one of the most spectacular fight scenes ever filmed, a battle that helped revolutionize the genre by integrating mixed martial arts in a raw and aggressive way. It was a duel so intense, so fast, and so perfectly choreographed that fans around the world still study it frame by frame today. Every exchange seemed to be performed at the limits of human capability, with no wasted movement and no opportunity to breathe. The speed, precision, and energy both warriors brought to the screen created a sequence that transcended the film itself and became a benchmark for action cinema. Even decades later, many still consider that confrontation one of the greatest martial arts duels ever captured on camera. And while Tony remains one of his most lethal villains, Collin Chou also delivered memorable performances alongside Jet Li in Fearless and alongside Keanu Reeves as Seraph in The Matrix Reloaded. Number 1. Shang Tsung. In Mortal Kombat, Shang Tsung did not need massive muscles or impossible weapons to inspire fear. His intimidating presence alone was enough. What made the character so dangerous was the performance of Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa. For years, he trained in disciplines such as kendo, karate, and other Japanese martial arts, developing a physical presence and authority that very few actors could match. He was a martial artist with enough real experience to make every movement feel authentic. Unlike many villains who rely solely on brute force, Shang Tsung was dangerous because he always seemed to be several steps ahead of his enemies. He was a strategist, a manipulator, and a master of deception who turned every confrontation into a psychological battle long before the physical fight began. And when the moment finally came for him to face Liu Kang, it became obvious why he was considered such a terrifying threat. And while Shang Tsung is the role that made him immortal, Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa also portrayed the legendary Heihachi Mishima in Tekken, one of the most brutal and ruthless villains in the entire franchise. Sadly, Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa passed away on the 4th of December, 2025, at the age of 75 due to complications from a stroke. However, his legacy lives on through some of the most unforgettable villains in the history of film and video games. Now, I want to hear your opinion. Of these 5 legendary villains, which one do you think was the most dangerous, and which one is your personal favorite? Let me know in the comments, and thank you very much for watching this video. Here's another one about the most brutal martial artists ever to step into Hollywood. Support the channel with your valuable like, share the video, and subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you in that awesome video.